Let's talk about suspending trellises and how we suspend trellises. So who knows the do's and don'ts of connecting to structure? Of connecting to structure. Like, can you attach a wire to the bottom of that joist there?
What?
A wire, a suspension point to the bottom of the joist.
Well, not from that one.
Not from any of them. Generally speaking, attaching to the bottom of the joist is a no-no. It's definitely a gray area. So I was talking with TC's structural engineer because we're getting given a hard time at Chestermere by some guy who thinks he knows what he's talking about but doesn't have a fucking clue. Yeah. So, but he's not wrong. Attaching to the bottom of the joist, generally speaking, is not permitted. A lot of drawings, new drawings in particular, for new builds, will specifically state you cannot attach to the bottom of the joist. You have to attach to the top of the joist. However, for the loads that we're doing when we're suspending trellises, like the lighter Safeway trellises, not for all trellises, but for these ones in particular, there's that web that goes like this. So if you attach at the bottom of the web and you actually loop around the web, then the load's being carried from the top down to that mounting point. It's when you get in between the webs, that metal is not meant for suspending any kind of a load, right? It's meant to be under tension, right? So when you push down, it basically is trying to turn it into a smiley face. So it's pulling on that metal. That's what it's designed for. It doesn't mean it won't support it. It just means it's not designed for that. And when a structural engineer comes through and sees it, then we're gonna have a problem, right? So same thing with the weight, the load that the mounting points have to take. Even though those things only weigh 400 pounds and there's 23 mounting points, each mounting point has to be adequate to support 70 pounds. And it's not because they all add up to whatever 23 times 100 is, because that's what our mounting points are, 2,300 pounds, right? Well, we're only supporting 400 pounds. Why do we need all these mounting points? It's because the aluminum structure that those slats attach to, it can't support itself. It'll start to deform, right? It'll start to bend. So they think they said 8 foot on centers max, 3 feet from the end, and then each one of those points has to be able to support 70 pounds because the whole thing is trying to bend as it goes. So what we're actually doing is supporting the aluminum from deflecting, not supporting the total load. And I run into this before where it's like, even though in a static straight pull load, yes, we can hang 2,300 pounds from that thing safely, but we can't hang the 400 pounds that we're trying to hang and have it hang properly unless each one of those points is sufficient to support 70 pounds. So I'm not an engineer. I deal with engineers on a fairly regular basis. I like to think I sort of have an idea of how this all works. That was a new one on me. Like, I would not have guessed that. I would have thought 8-10 mounting points should have been more than sufficient to hang those things for the load that we have. But that is, in fact, not the case. So I learned something in that conversation, right? So best practices again. Saddles, beam or Q-deck clips, and the studs. That is the way we need to be doing this, if at all possible, right? And the reason for the saddles is you can see the Q-deck, how it's got the little part that drops down and then the little part that's flat above. If you screw into the flat above, you're probably going to punch a hole through the membrane of the roof and we're going to have a leak and it's going to be a big insurance claim and an absolute nightmare. That's why I use the saddles, because the saddles go on, you can only screw from the side and you can only attach them to the lower section, and it's pretty much impossible unless you use a fucking 6-inch screw or something. You know, but using the screws that we supply, there's no way you're ever going to punch through the membrane, right? Now, that being said, in Leduc, we had a situation where we had no alternative. We had to use the threaded eyes, right? So the threaded eyes in Leduc, we were given special permission to do that. This is not my preference. It doesn't mean it's unsafe, but you know, all it takes is staring up in the middle of the night in the dark and being 4 inches the wrong way to punch a hole in the membrane, and then we've got a real problem, like a real problem. So I don't want you guys using those threaded eyes unless there is literally absolutely no other alternative. How long do we fight with those guys before we finally decided that we were going to do that? A long time. Like, moving forward, we're trying to get them to remove the T-bar for us, give us access. That for me is the best way to do it. I know that it's a pain in the ass to get up there, but I think once you get up there, like, the deck clips are pretty straightforward, right? The other thing with the deck clips is I know that the deck clip is rated for 236 pounds. The assembly that we're using is rated for 100 pounds, but I have less confidence in those eye screws. If you over torque that eye screw and you strip that thread out a little bit, it isn't going to maintain its holding power, right? So then it becomes a lot more dependent on the skill of the installer and making sure that they don't over torque it when they thread it in. And if they do, then there is a lot of uncertainty in what the actual failure point on the low rating is going to be. Well, Leduc was a particularly bad case.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you guys are having similar problems in Chestermere, are you?
No, it's only wide open. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Real place.
Yeah. More or less, if I tell you this is the way I want it done, then that's the way I expect it to be done. And if for some reason you can't do it that way, it's not, oh, we're going to do it this other way because we did it before on this other job. That's not how this works. It's, here's an email in the morning, here's some site photos, I can't get up here, can I please have permission to use the threaded eyes? I think we need to do that in this circumstance. And then we'll look at it, we'll talk about it, we'll discuss it with our client, we'll get permission, then we'll move forward, right? It's not just, oh, there's no other way to do it. Well, there's no other way you know how to do it, but that doesn't mean there's not another way I know how to do it, or Jim knows how to do it, or Cam knows how to do it, right? So we have to get away from making choices in the field without asking for permission first, right? Or notifying us that you're having a problem. So, because we run into problems in the regular, right? So whenever you're doing something that's not our standard, that should send up a red flag. Hey, I need to let somebody know that we've got a problem here and we're not going to be able to use the deck clips. Or I don't think we can use the deck clips. Maybe the solution is we get you a different piece of equipment, right? Maybe the solution is we go to the GC and tell them they got to move some stuff for us. Like, there are options that you're maybe not considering at 2 a.m. So, but again, it goes back to what our best practices are. So if we're following our best practices, then everything's fine. If for some reason we can't, then we need to have a conversation. We can't just proceed because we did it on another job at another time and it was okay, right? Because that job could have been for a different client that didn't care. Like in this particular circumstance, I find faintly hilarious because Gene is on a phone call with me, the project manager of Sobeys, right? So we did no-rise Sobeys for Gene. He never asked a single question. Those things weighed, like, I don't even know what they weighed, like 1,000 pounds, 800 pounds? Way more. Yeah, exactly. So we suspended all of that shit, hung all of that. Gene never said a fucking word. Now we're hanging these piddly little 400-pound aluminum and foam things, and it's like the whole world has come to an end, and we don't think they've got the expertise, and they don't have the right suspension hardware, and blah, 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 a whole bunch of fucking bullshit, right? So, you know, that's just how life goes sometimes. Like I said, everything's fine until it's not. So yeah, as I said, our best practice is to use the deck clips, and that's what we need to be doing if at all possible. And if it's not possible, you need to let somebody know, right? Just like we've discussed all of the things that we want to do when it comes to, you know, the fascia and the wall protection, our standard procedures. And if you're for some reason unable to follow our standard procedure, for whatever that reason is, you need to let somebody know. You need to let us know what's going on. Say, hey, here, we're having a problem. This is what we think we need to do. Are you guys okay with this? Because if you don't, and you just proceed, and it doesn't fly, it's coming back on me, which then means it's coming back on you, right? So all of this communication is about you guys letting me know so I can let the client know so that we can proceed And then when they complain about it, we just say, well, listen, guys, we told you this is what we were going to do here. We gave you all the reasons why, and your project manager approved us to do it this way. Because I've had this happen many a time, where we'll get approval from the PM, and then the architect will be doing their walkthrough at the end of the job, and we'll be like, no, we don't like that. And I'll just say, well, listen, here's the approval from your PM. So you take it up with him, because I got permission from your guy. Oh, and by the way, the PM is the guy that pays us. Right? So if the guy that pays us says it's okay, it's okay. And then if that guy made a mistake and the architect says, no, that isn't gonna fly, you have to get your mill workers to change that, then he's gonna have to pay me to change it because he told me to do it the other way in the first place. Right? So it's about giving them the opportunity to say yes or no, and then we just follow their instructions. I don't decide any of this on my own. Very rarely do I make an executive decision and tell you guys to proceed, right? I think I did it for you on the fascia because it was going to be 1 inch and I knew we could get away with it, right? So I'm like, just lower it 1 inch, don't worry about it, move on, nobody's ever going to notice, right? That doesn't happen very often, right? Like most of the times I got to ask and I'll get back to you and let you know. So as much as possible every night, I would like you guys to put everything away, like put it back where it came from. Right? I know when you've got some hardware and whatnot, that's sometimes difficult to manage. Moving forward, like if we do another vision center, we'll have a pack out with all the specific hardware for the vision center or whatever, right? Like we'll try and start creating little tool, or not toolkits, but hardware kits for the specific jobs, right? I think we'll look at getting some drywall screws to test and see how that goes. Or you're gonna, we need to find you some laminate too. But you're only got little strips to do, right? Yeah, so that one will be a good test. Maybe at the Walmart, you guys are gonna have to put a fair bit of wallboard up, or not. There's still some laminating to do there down that whole hallway that's created by the Vision Center. Yeah, so maybe we can get some drywall screws for you guys and you can try them out and see how it goes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. How comfortable are you guys reading drawings? Like, do you guys know how to read a drawing, how to navigate a drawing, and how to find the information on the drawings? For me? Yeah.
A little bit.
Do you guys know what a keynote is? Do you know how to follow a section note? You guys good with that too? Yeah.
Need more
Okay.
practice, so
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So in the renovations in particular, do you guys know how to figure out what's being demolished and what's not being demolished, or what's changing and what's not changing? You guys know that there's a demo plan, right? So for the refrigeration in particular, especially on a renovation, it's good to have a look at a demo plan because a lot of the refrigeration, a lot of the time is remaining, right? Like often the entire perimeter of the store, like I think at 1570, they basically didn't change anything on the outside of the store, did they? The one in Edmonton that you did?
Superstore.
Last one? The perimeter of the store was pretty much stayed the same. It was only the islands in the center that they changed, right? Yeah, and so a lot of times that's what the case is. And then it's the islands. Normally it's the islands that they're changing. Yeah, yeah. So when you go to a job site, it's a good idea to have reviewed the demo drawing because then you've got an idea of areas that are going to be destroyed and something new built, right? Like the customer service area at the Walmart or at Chestermere, right? Chestermere right now, where their customer service desk is, that's all getting ripped out. They're going to build a wall and they're going to put an office in there, right?
Just cashier.
Yeah, so when you look at the wall finish plan and you see the laminate's supposed to go across there, and then you're looking at the space and you're going, well, wait a minute, there's a customer service desk. How are we going to laminate there? That's when you got to go look at probably the floor plan and the demo plan, right? If you look at the floor plan and you see that there's a wall there, then you can figure out pretty quickly, oh, they got to build a wall there, right? You look at the demo plan and you'll see that whole area is getting demolished. And you're like, yeah, they're definitely building a wall here. So you know the number one, like the first drawing has an index almost 100% of the time. So if you open up the very first drawing, it gives you a list of what all the drawings are. So it says 0.0 title page, 0.1 site plan, 0.2